Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Today we are here to understand a little bit about how we can write short stories. We may be thinking that writing a short story should be an easy task, but trust me, it's not, because writing something, it looks easy, but will our writing reach our audience, our readers, as the way we want? That's a big question mark. It's not about just the writer getting the pleasure of expressing something. It has to be about the readers enjoying it in the same depth as the writer writes. So I would like to add on this point that in the generation of AI, we are all into AI revolution. All the formal things, whatever documents we may be making, being from the technical background, it's all taken over by AI tools like Chat GPT, and there are presentation makers like Tome, which auto generates all your presentations with all the content. So in this generation where information can be presented with AI, the only scope left for us humans is to write our own stories, talk our stories, and then that will be the only originality that we can retain. So I feel it becomes important for all of us to know how to write compelling stories and reach out people, connect with people, and have a space in this world of AI. So short stories, we need not write them only to present in the books or publish it in some of the books. They also help us in many ways, such as when we are giving speeches somewhere. A neat, properly structured story kind of speech will also add a lot of value. We can grab the attention of our audience. And in many places, when even write some posts on Facebook or LinkedIn, if it is properly structured rather than randomly throwing some information and some feelings in a random structure, it doesn't attract people. So we should always have a compelling story to write or to tell. How can we tell a story? Only after we write it. So it all begins with a good speech, a good storytelling, or a good post anywhere needs a properly structured, engaging, and a content which can connect with our audience. So we may be from all the technical backgrounds, but we have to have this art of writing and story writing and storytelling. So with this background, I would like to share my screen. I had written some of the short stories, and I could not publish it as a book because I got busy into some other things. So now that we have announced short story writing competitions and publish an anthology for all the teachers, I thought this session will help, and whatever stories I have written will be going into that anthology. And hoping many of you also to contribute to this. So let us introduce and define short stories. Short stories are somewhere between 1,000 to 10,000 words. Beyond this, it is not called a short story. So maybe somewhere around 10 pages, 1 to 10 pages will be short story. And why one should write short stories? As I said, it's a way to connect with our audience, create an impact, and it will be designed around a single theme. Short stories cannot have all the random things. Maybe we want to connect with audience with various topics, but we cannot be doing it with everything in one story. So we may write multiple stories to talk about multiple things, but we will not keep random things in a short story and call it a story. So it should have a single theme. It should have one moment which grabs audience and connects them, and one or two characters which can be explored in depth. We cannot have too many personalities and characters explained in short stories. And this can be a great way to practice. Every writer starts, even a novelist, he doesn't directly start writing a big novel. Everybody begins as writer with these short stories, because we can experiment on different styles, different genre, and everything. So that's about short story introduction. So typically, what are the elements of a short story? We cannot ignore this. So whenever we start writing, we should not start writing emotionally. starting randomly from anywhere. It should be properly structured. That will give a good impact towards our readers. As I said, it's not enough if the writer enjoys what he is writing. It is very important also for the reader to get the depth of what the writer has written. So there are two types of stories, fiction and non-fiction. Fiction is comparatively difficult to write because you have to imagine and know the impact of the readers. But non-fiction could be your own stories, which is a lot easier. So we can try out with non-fiction stories, short story writing, and then try out some fiction. So elements of a short story, it includes setting. So the scene, the scenario where everything is happening, and the plot, how the story progresses and then ends, starts, progresses and ends. We should have a proper plot for it. We will discuss in depth about this plot because plot is the most important aspect. Plot happens to be the most important aspect of the story writing. And then the theme, we should have a central objective or takeaway message where our readers can grab. It cannot be just random story without any strings to it and leaving it to the audience to decide what is it. We have to say something. So recently I released a podcast. So even there, the story was converted into audio mode. That's it. So it had introduction of the scene, and then there were two characters. One was me and there was girl, and why we were there together, what was happening and how it resolved, what was the takeaway message. So it was all properly structured. So I narrated it to record and make it a podcast. So story helps in many ways to reach out, to tell our own stories. And then it had a theme. The theme was that as teachers, we lose out, we get burnt out, but still we should keep going because we never know which incident or which day our life may change for better. So that was the theme. And then characters. Usually in stories, it's typical to have two characters, that is protagonist, meaning the main character, who is the hero or the main character of the positive character, and the one is antagonist, where somebody is against it, a negative role. It need not be, we can show it in different ways, but definitely there is protagonist always. Antagonist is a negative character which is who is causing some trouble or anything. It need not be dominantly visible, but some extra character which is adding value to your story. And then there has to be a conflict in every story. We have to show some problem, we have to show something that has to be resolved. Otherwise the story is flat. Nobody gets inspired with somebody who said all my life was really smooth, there were nothing. There is always a compelling story when we have some struggle or problem to narrate. So that there comes the conflict. We have to show the conflict, and always it has got point of view. It is the writer's view. The same story, the same incident, someone else may write in different way. That doesn't matter. Our story is our way of thinking. So these are the 6 elements which we should consider when we are writing short story. Setting, plot, theme, characters in that. In short story, we are not supposed to have too many characters. And then there should be a conflict and a point of view which we are presenting. So let us explore what is a plot. It is the sequence of events that make up a story. So usually we struggle here because we are so much excited sometimes to tell something to our audience. It could be through audio, video, or Facebook post, or a WhatsApp, whatever it may be. We get so much excited that we cannot wait patiently to structure it neatly and share it. So if we just pause for a before we actually post, structure it well and post something, it may have a lot of impact on people. So we get the pulse of the readers. So the sequence of events. So the elements of the plot typically includes, initially we start with an introduction. There will be a rising action against, towards that. Then there is climax. Climax is not the end. Climax is at the peak where you show the problem. Peak of the problem where people actually get engrossed and try to know what may happen further. How is it going to be resolved? That is the climax. And then you start writing some actions, which is all leading towards resolution. That is, the problem is being resolved. So that's the typical plot. Yeah. And some tips for writing an effective plot. When we write stories, we should avoid writing every detail of it in the first place. We should have some bullet points saying this, I will introduce this scene. So rising action will have these points and climax will be at this point. Then how it is resolving will be some more bullet points, and then how it is going to end. So this is how we have to write some outline, write an outline and then start filling line by line details with it. If we do like this, then a story will definitely be compelling. Yeah. So it's a famous plot diagram. It is plotted by one of the famous literary expert who has given this structure, and many people follow it. That is, exposition is nothing but initially you introduce the characters, the scene, all of it. Then you start narrating the story with some rising actions, and there is problem being introduced, talked about, and it reaches a peak where audience get overly curious as what is going to happen next, how this problem is going to be solved. Then we have this falling action, and then we resolve. So let me ask you all a question now. What are the different ways to start a story? How do you open a story? You may be reading many books and many short stories. If you have not written, you must have read. So what are the different ways to start a story? Can I hear from somebody? Yeah. I request somebody to just contribute. What are the ways the story starts? We can start a story.
A story can start with something which raises the curiosity of a reader. Otherwise, he will not read full.
Right.
And it should start with some theme. What you are going to convey in a very brief way, not very elaborate. It should raise the curiosity, number one. Yeah. And it should show what you may get, at least what is the use of reading that story, how it relates to you as a reader.
Yeah, generating curiosity and holding them is one way. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So madam she is an author herself, so she knows it better. Anybody else would like to add how to begin? Yeah, so let me give some of the ways to open the story. The first way could be starting with a dialogue, which can struck the audience, which can attract the audience mind instantly. So are you sure this is a good idea? Asking a question. I never should have taken that job. It instantly puts them into some situation there. And then, or an action. So the car and the gun went off and everything went dark, something like this, put them into a situation. So it could be an action. It could be a dialogue, it could be an action or description. Description is what usually people, it's a typical way to start. They describe the scene. Slowly they help imagine, make people imagine things. But however, I feel that a dialogue or an action is more effective than description. It instantly puts, these days people are, they have short attention span. We should do something to grab their interest in just few seconds. So with a dialogue, action, and sometimes flashback. So they will put you into some situation which was past. Like I first met her at a party 5 years ago and I never forgot her. So this is an example, a flashback. Again, a question, like madam said, curiosity, reader's curiosity, and sets up the story. So asking a question or a statement, you just give out your quote, which is unique, which people must have not heard before, a different perception directly, and it suddenly attracts them. Usually Sadhguru or whoever, they write the quotes, right? It suddenly attracts people saying, yes, this is nice. So some statement of your own, boldly you can present it because it's your story. Nobody is there to judge. It is not fact. Stories are not facts. They are our perceptions. So we can boldly present them. And description of a mood sometimes. create an atmosphere. It was dark and stormy night. The air was thick. Some kind of ambience you create and talk about this. So these are all the ways of opening a story which can attract the audience and help them go ahead with your story, reading your story. It applies even to any of your Facebook, LinkedIn posts. If we write this, most of them will stop there without scrolling and they would like to read our posts. Yeah. So what are the types of closing? Can I hear from somebody now? How does a story end typically? Do we have different ways to end the story, or it all ends with a resolution saying in the end everything was good?
No, story may end with a question. If you were that person, what you would have done?
Right.
So that will enhance the thinking process.
Yeah.
Story may not end with the solution. It may end again with a question. If you were the protagonist, what you would have done? Something like that.
Right. Yeah. So that's another interesting way. Let us check out different ways of ending, types of closing the story. The most common type of ending the story is saying in the end everything was good, in short, resolved, all the confusions are cleared, loose ends are tied up, and the hero, the main character, the protagonist, achieves their goals, learns their lessons, admits, confesses, and comes out stronger than the person he or she was in the beginning of the story. And all of this is the most common way. Starting with description is the most common opening, and ending with resolution is the most common closing. So if you want to give a twist, we can try all other variants. So twist, in the end, you can have some unanticipated elements coming in, and then it will set up the reader's expectations. So for example, here they have given a character who was thought to be hero is revealed to be a villain. So till the end, nobody knows who was protagonist and who was antagonist. So positive and negative characters. So, but or a seemingly happy ending takes a dark turn. It could be also the other way. Not all the endings need to be a happy one, but you can see some movies, they also have some dark end, but it's up to the writer what with what effect you want to leave them with, right? I know if you have watched this Mungaru Male Kannada movie, everybody were so much interested in knowing what happens in the end, but nothing happens as we expect. The hero doesn't get to marry the heroine. So that's how it happens. But still, it became such a hit movie. Almost every language background people, they started watching it, enjoying it. Till today, it's a very famous movie. So such kind of twist, or ambiguous, which is it's not clear. It ends in an unanswered question or confusing manner. So whatever the reader may want to assume, he's free to assume, and it's not open ended. I mean, it's open ended and it's not closed. So I have seen most of R.K. Narayan's novels. In the end, it's up to the readers. It suddenly ends and we don't know what to take from it. We keep thinking. So there are such stories as well which engages audience. And then there is circular, an ending that brings full story full circle by referencing the beginning, or something is recurring. It says it's not the end. It will keep on repeating, but with new understanding, new perception. So each time it repeats, there is a new perception developed. So this is another interesting way. And then epiphany, that is ending with the protagonist has sudden realization or moment of clarity that changes perspective. This is something related to resolution, but it is strongly involved in the perception. And then moral or message, usually the fables, what they call for kids, whatever we write, we always give a moral or a message. It need not be for kids, but it could also be for the adults and everybody. Saying this is my perception, this is the message that I could derive. So if somebody can make sense and resonate with that, well and good. So the writer's own internal thoughts. And the cliffhanger, like Madam said, a question or what can happen next. Uh, Audience will get curious. It's not the end. Most of the Netflix series, they keep it in the cliffhanging ways that we are waiting for further episodes to be released, and that's how we end up in keeping our subscription alive, assuming now the next sequel may arise. I mean, it may be out and let me see what happens in the next. So cliffhanger is most attractive way to hold the audience for longer time. If we can write something like this, you can keep a big audience base running after us all the time for us to release the next. So these are the different ways of closing. So in between what happens, we can add some humor, from some suspense, some nice narrative which engages audience. But opening and closing are extremely important for readers to hook them onto our writing. So that was just a short talk about how to write short stories. So I would like to say that no one can write your story, so write it yourself. I again repeat that with all the advent of AI tools, informational aspects are all written, compiled by AI tools. It's only our own story that AI tools cannot write. So we should all start developing story writing skills, which cannot be just there for publishing a story anywhere. It could be for good speech to be presented to the audience, which can impact them, or it could be some nice posts that we put on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages, or anywhere where we want to make an impact, have our own story. It should have the structure: opening, then there is a raising action. I would like to go back to that. This is very important in any of our speeches, posts, or stories, wherever we write. So what we can do is, if we have to refine this plot, we can have it loosely, write it with all that we know. The outline we can create and then put it on ChatGPT. So it will help us give good grammar, good English and everything, but it is still your own story. So that's another way to have. The plot is our own. The plot cannot come from AI tools. The plot is our own. The expressions are our own, but the way you present it, the English vocabulary and all can be taken care by AI tools. So that's how we can give a great show with our short stories, connecting with audience, connecting emotionally with people, and we can go a long way with our story writing skills. Thank you so much. So anybody, if you have got any opinions, you're free to share.
Thank you, madam. Very nice. It was the way you have presented, and good learning for all of us. Let me tell you, even I learned a lot today. In teaching also, you can engage the students better by storytelling. For example, I teach entrepreneurship and quality management. There also, if you want to introduce a concept or a theme, you can start with a story. This story can be slowly converted into a caselet in over a period of time. And the main thing about storytelling is, this is one of the interesting tool for pedagogical tool for teaching and learning, and it keeps students engaged, and you can draw the attention of students, because everybody likes a story, whether you are a kid or whether you are an adult. Everyone likes a story, to listen to stories, to talk about stories. I think it is a very good tool for all the teachers. Even you can use at any level, even at degree level, postgraduate level, you can use as one of the teaching tools. This is what I felt today after learning from you. Very systematic, very nicely presented. Good session now.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for those valuable inputs. Yes, I forgot to tell or emphasize on this that our classes can be of storytelling, because there is a famous quote which says, people forget facts, but people remember the story that we tell.
Stories.
So story has a strong way of connecting to people. There are international coaches which are living on mere storytelling activity. They learn lakhs together only because they are able to write and talk compelling stories to people and connect audience. So imagine the power of storytelling. You can earn lakhs together if you are a good storyteller. So being teachers, I think it at most important for all of us to become good storytellers, for which we have to develop this structured form of narrating, holding the interest of students. And most of the times people struggle to tell this story because they tend to give out the suspense in the beginning. So for the rest of the time, student or the audience knows that what is coming out of this. That is a disaster to happen during storytelling. So we should structure so neatly that it holds the curiosity, and till the end, you're not revealing what is happening. And if they learn it that way, they are never going to forget. So I think it added a great value with the interaction of Dr. Purnima Madam. It gave a lot of value to this session. Thank you all for
Madam,
having
one
joined.
more thing I want to just tell. Suddenly
Yes,
I
ma'am.
remember
Yeah.
two great teachers who are also storytellers. One is Sudha Murthy. Whenever you listen to her speak, she has a story behind that. And she was also a teacher in computer science in an engineering college before they started Infosys. She was famous for storytelling in the classroom, even in computer science class. And another person I really adore is our Gururaj Karajgi. He's a great storyteller, madam. I request everybody, there is a weekend with Ramesh. There is a show in ZTV. I think today Gururaj Karjgi is the inviting in that weekend with Ramesh. He's a great storyteller and he has written small stories. The way Madam has conveyed us the plot, everything. In the same way, I could relate because I have read a lot of his stories and Sudha Murthy stories. If anybody wants to become famous like them, it's a good beginning also to write a story.
Correct, madam. Even I have read Sudhamurthy's short stories. They were very simple, like and the day-to-day life, what is happening. So I think the same way we can start, right? Like, so whenever we hear the things from like this way, we get motivated. So I thought let me write one story today, like. So Chetana
Even
madam, it was
after
very nice
listening to
session.
Chetana, I felt I will write a story.
Yes, madam. It was a very nice session, madam. You got an overview of
She
how
motivated
exactly.
all of us
Yes,
to become
madam.
good story writers.
Yes, madam.
Thank you so much,
And
Purnima
Gururaj
Madam and
Karajgi has
Urdu.
written so nicely. Karunalu Ba Belake. He has written in a Kannada, I think Prajavani. He has written Karunalu Ba Belake. Every week he used to write a story. Now it is converted into a book. Same thing Sudha Murthy. They are great. I have met Sudha Murthy many times. She's a great storyteller. Everything she will tell in the type of a story, and she keeps the audience engaging and focused.
Yes, madam. They are simple stories only, not very fiction type.
Correct.
Also.
Correct, ma'am. Correct.
Yeah, so let us all start writing stories, telling stories, because we have seen examples. People can become famous by gaining followers, and followers could be gained only with compelling stories. And we can have these stories. And see, most often the another mistake that we like to do is we get greedy while telling stories. We want to embed everything in one story. If we do that, we will lose a big deal, because random things cannot convince people. We have to take just one small instance, explain it, beautify it, and deliver it effectively. So choose another time, another day for another instance. So let us not mix too many things, the greed of connecting with audience and try to make it something else than we planned. So those are the ways stories can flop. So we have to have a clear central message, and only those things around that message we have to build the story. So we can have another story for another theme that we want to present. So that's the concept of short stories. Stay connected with audience with multiple short stories, and that's how we can tread the path ahead. So thank you all for joining. So let us all keep writing stories. We also have the story writing program for all the teachers. It is still open. We have got around 15 stories, but to publish book, we are expecting at least 30 stories. So it is still open. Please write a story of one interesting story that happened to you in your teaching journey. You are also welcome to write more than one story. Please write it and submit. You can connect with me to submit. It's still open. You can touch some people with your story. Thank you, everybody. Let's meet once again the next Sunday. Thank you. Have a great day.